So I just wanted to make a video of some scriptures that people that are still trying to do the feast, like especially the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Um, like there's two chapters in Deuteronomy, like they're just choosing not to listen or read, um, and so I'm just gonna read through them, um, just to bring them to your attention. So then hopefully you'll be able to hear it. But so yeah, this is Deuteronomy 12, and I've like read through these like several times before, and like it just maybe it takes some time to click. Maybe you have to read through it many times, but um, just read through it. So this is Deuteronomy 12. These are the statutes and judgments which ye shall observe to do in the land which the Lord God of thy fathers giveth thee to possess it, and all the days that ye live upon the earth. Ye shall utterly destroy all the places wherein the nations which ye shall possess served their gods, upon the high mountains and upon the hills and under every green tree. So these first two verses, they say that you have to do it in the land that uh, God chooses, and this is said throughout the this chapter. But then also you have to destroy basically all of the idol worship um, in that land. Um, and so the land that God chose to be worshipped was in Jerusalem. Um, and if there are other gods served in that nation, then then they would be profaning whatever feast that they would be doing. Um, and I think like throughout the Isaiah, um, and I think like even in other prophets, it says how God hates people's feasts, that the people that do feasts today, because they're doing it in a profane land that's serving other gods. Um, and ye shall overthrow their altars, and break their pillars, and burn their groves with fire, and ye shall hew down the graven images of their gods, and destroy the names of them out of that place. Just continuing. Ye shall not do so unto the Lord your God, but unto the place which the Lord your God shall choose out of all your tribes to put his name there, even unto his habitation shall ye seek, and thither thou shalt come. And thither ye shall bring your burnt offerings, and your sacrifices, and your tithes, and heave offerings of your hands, and your vows, and your freewill offerings, and the firstlings of your herds and of your flocks. And there ye shall eat before the Lord your God, and ye shall rejoice in all that ye put your hand unto, ye and your households wherein the Lord thy God hath blessed thee. So you eat whatever it is for that feast in the place where God chooses, not wherever you want. In the place that He chooses. It's what it says. Um, Ye shall not do after all the things that we do here this day. Every man whatsoever is right in his own eyes. Don't if you're not in the land that God chose, which is Jerusalem, if you're around other people serving that are like other gods and there's idols and whatever, then you're not doing this. You're not doing what God said. Um, it's I don't know what to tell you. It's you have to do what He said. You can't go to the left or to the right. You have to be in the straight and narrow. For ye are not as yet come to the rest and to the inheritance which the Lord your God giveth you. But when ye go over Jordan, and dwell in the land which the Lord your God giveth you to inherit, and when he giveth you rest from all your enemies round about, so that ye dwell in safety, then there shall be a place which the Lord your God shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. Thither shall ye bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes, and the heave offerings and of your hand, and all the choice vows which ye vow unto the Lord. It's it's quite clear. You go to the place where God chooses, and then you do you do the sacrifice, whatever you eat it there. Ye shall rejoice before the Lord your God, ye and your sons and your daughters, and your men servants and your maidservants, and the Levite that is within your gates, for as much as he hath no part nor inheritance with you. Take heed to thyself that thou offer not thy burnt offerings in every place that thou seest, but in the place which the Lord shall choose in one of thy tribes, there thou shalt offer thy burnt offerings, and there thou shalt do all that I command thee. Notwithstanding, thou mayest kill and eat all flesh in all thy gates. You can eat whatever you lust after. Like if you're just wanting to say eat a sandwich, right? You can eat that anywhere you please. That's what it's saying here. Whatsoever thou soul lustest after, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God, which he hath given thee. The unclean and the clean may eat thereof, as of the roebuck and as of the hart. Only ye shall not eat the blood, and ye shall pour it upon the earth as water. So you can eat whatever you lust after, wherever you want. But when you're doing any of God's feasts, you do it in the place that he chooses. Thou mayest not eat within thy gates thy tithe, the tithe of thy corn, or thy wine, Like you're trying to do the Passover. You're trying to drink the wine of the Passover, but you're not doing it in the land. You're not doing it in the place that he chose. You're having these other people serving other gods around you. You haven't rested from your enemies, as in verse 10. You're just doing whatever you desire. You're you're doing whatever is right in your own eyes. You can't do that. Don't just drink the wine, like, because that's the blood of Christ. That's what it represents. You can't just drink that wherever you please. You have to drink that only in the place where God chooses, and you have to have all the people, all the gods, all the altars, all of that destroyed where you're at. But that's not the case, especially in America. Especially in America, where there's people that are serving every type of God that exists, right? Thou mayest not eat within thy gates the tithe of thy corn, or of thy wine, or of thy oil, or of the firstlings of thy herds, or of thy flock, nor any of thy vows which thou vowest, nor thy freewill offerings, or heave offering of thine hand. But thou must eat them before the Lord thy God in the place which the Lord thy God shall choose, thou and thy son and thy daughter, and thy manservant and thy maidservant, and the Levite that is within thy gates. And thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God in all that thou puttest thine hands unto. Take heed to thyself that thou forsake not the Levite as long as thou livest upon the earth. When the Lord thy God shall enlarge thy border as he hath promised thee, and thou shalt say, I will eat flesh, because thy soul longeth to eat flesh. Thou mayest eat flesh whatsoever thou soul lusteth at, whatsoever thou soul lusteth after. You can eat whatever you lust after, if it's a sandwich or if it's a what, if it's a piece of chicken, whatever you desire, you can eat wherever you wherever you want. But if it's one of God's holy feasts, you don't do that wherever you please. If the place which the Lord thy God hath chosen to put his name there be too far from thee, then thou shalt kill of thy herd and of thy flock, which the Lord hath given thee, as I have commanded thee, and thou shalt eat in thy gate whatsoever thou soul lusteth after, whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, even as the roebuck and the hart is eaten at, so thou shalt eat them. The unclean and the clean shall eat of them alike. Only be sure that thou eat not the blood, for the blood is the life, and thou mayest not eat the life with the flesh. Thou shalt not eat it, thou shalt pour it upon the earth as water, thou shalt not eat it, that it may go well with thee, and with thy children after thee, when thou shalt do that which is right in the sight of the Lord. Only the holy things which thou hast, and thy vows would and thy vows thou shalt take, and go unto the place which the Lord shall choose. That place is Jerusalem. And thou shalt offer thy burnt offerings, the flesh and the blood, upon the altar of the Lord thy God. And the blood of thy sacrifices shall be poured out upon the altar of the Lord thy God, and thou shalt eat the flesh. Observe and hear all these words which I command thee, that it may go well with thee, and with thy children after thee, forever. When thou doest that which is good and right in the sight of the Lord thy God, not what's right in the sight of your eyes, but what's right in the sight of God's eyes. When the Lord thy God shall cut off the nations from before thee, whither thou goest to possess them, and thou succeedest them, and dwellest in their land, take heed to thyself, that thou be not snared by following them, after that they be destroyed from before thee, and that thou inquire not after their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. Thou shalt not do so unto the Lord thy God, for every abomination to the Lord which he hateth have they done unto their gods. For even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods. What things soever I command you, observe to do it. Thou shalt not add thereto, nor diminish from it. So don't add or subtract what God says to do. If he says to do it in the land, don't say that you can do it wherever you want to. So now let's also go to Deuteronomy 16, because these are the two places where people aren't reading, that are doing the feast. So this is Deuteronomy 16. Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. Thou shalt therefore sacrifice the Passover unto the Lord thy God of the flock of and the herd in the place which the Lord shall choose to place his name there. That's Jerusalem. It's the same thing. You sacrifice the Passover and you eat it in the place that God chose, which is Jerusalem. Thou shalt eat no leaven bread with it. 7 days shalt thou eat unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction, for thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt in haste, that thou mayest remember the day when thou camest forth out of the land of Egypt, all the days of thy life. And there shall be no leavened bread seen with thee in all thy coast 7 days, neither shall there anything of the flesh, which thou sacrificest the first day at even, remain all night until the morning. Thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover within any of thy gates, which the Lord thy God giveth thee, but at the place which the Lord thy God shall choose to place his name in, there thou shalt sacrifice the Passover at even, at the going down of the sun, at the season that thou camest forth out of Egypt, and thou shalt roast and eat it in the place which the Lord thy God shall choose, and thou shalt turn in the morning and go unto thy tents. You sacrifice the Passover in the place that God chooses. You eat it in the place that God chooses. It's the same place that was mentioned in Deuteronomy 12. It's Jerusalem. 6 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, and on the seventh day shall be a solemn assembly to the Lord thy God. Thou shalt do no work therein. 7 weeks shalt thou number unto thee. Begin to number the 7 weeks from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. Thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto the Lord thy God for the tribute of a freewill offering of thine hand, which thou shalt give unto the Lord thy God, according as the Lord thy God hath blessed thee. And thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God, thou and thy son, and thy daughter, and thy manservant, and thy maidservant, and the Levite that is within thy gates, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow that are among you, in the place which the Lord thy God hath chosen to place his name there. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in Egypt, that thou shalt observe and do these statutes. Thou shalt observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days, after that thou hast gathered in thy corn and thy wine. And thou shalt rejoice in thy feast, and thou and thy son and thy daughter, and thy manservant and thy maidservant, and the Levite, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow that are within thy gates. 7 days shalt thou keep a solemn feast unto the Lord thy God, in the place which the Lord shall choose, because the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all thine increase, and in all the works of thine hands. Therefore thou shalt surely rejoice. 3 times in a year shall all the males appear before the Lord thy God, in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God, which he hath given thee. So you go to the place that God chooses, and you do these feasts. You don't do them anywhere else. Judges and officers shall thou make thee in all thy gates, which the Lord thy God giveth thee throughout thy tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment. Thou shalt not wrest judgment, thou shalt not respect persons, neither take a gift, for a gift doth blind the eyes of the wise, and pervert the words of the righteous. That which is altogether just shalt thou follow, that thou mayest live and inherit the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not plant thee a grove of any trees near unto the altar of the Lord thy God, which thou shalt make thee. Neither shalt thou set thee up any image which the Lord thy God hateth. So it should be pretty clear. And go read those two chapters for yourself. Um, you can't do the feasts wherever you please. You have to do them in the place where God chooses. Um, and there's only one place that God chose to put His name, and that's Jerusalem. Um, so reread them several times. I had to do that to really get in my head, to really get it ingrained. But yeah, don't do whatever is right in your own eyes. Just repent from doing the feast. So yeah, happy Sabbath. Um, yeah.